Republican.
Dan, do you mind if I ask you what kind of a time investment that signature collection was? 450 signatures, what did that take?
I did a bulk of the work, and had a couple volunteers helping. Um, I spent a good chunk of 1 week gathering signatures. I think I hit close to over 250 doors across 5, 6 days, something like that.
Okay, so you get like multiple people at a house to sign.
Hopefully, yeah, that was the case on a few stops, but not everywhere. Sometimes it was one, sometimes it was none. Um, and like I said, that was supplemented by work done through with volunteers and other events here in the area. So we
Awesome.
we live in I live in a very rural area, so it's hard to like walk down the street, and we have to sort of hit housing developments here and there, and um,
Yeah. Well, that's great. Good job.
thanks.
We'll have to pick your brain soon about doing that.
We're we're
Okay,
we're
yep.
we're going to go ahead and get started now that we're past 8 o'clock. Welcome to the rest of you who have joined us. I'm sure we'll have a few more trickle in. I just want to share the agenda for a minute so everyone knows what the plan is for tonight. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So tonight we're 3 points on the agenda: educate, organize, and do. So we have Rob Booth from the Good Party that's going to be with us here. I'm going to pass over the floor to him in just a moment to share about the tools of the Good Party and what they have to offer. Dan, I hope you'll find it useful. You will not be able to use these tools, but I think that you'll still find some great information and good background for you for other reasons. I hope that you'll stick around to listen to that presentation. I think everyone else will really appreciate everything that's being shared. On the organized end, we have an update on our candidates committee, some announcements to be made there, and some other goals that we just want to share. And then with some state organization business, some positions that are open, an announcement regarding the convention, and then some events and call to action. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to Rob. Rob and I had a chance to meet last week, along with Brian. Brian helped to put that together. I've actually met with a few people from the Good Party now. I'm very impressed by all the work that they're doing, and what a great resource. So I'll tell you, for one of the challenging things about independent politics, for those of you who have been in this space for a long time, I've been a registered independent. I used to be able to say all of my life. I changed for one primary back in 2020, but went right back to independent again. The same resources aren't there. There's so much partisanship in how the game of politics is played. And that's part of what we're building here with the Ford, is to be that support network. And I know there's other parties out there that are helping to organize people, but even so, there's still a wealth of information that we need to be able to tap into and to provide support to candidates. And the Good Party has really stepped up and helping to fill that gap in an amazing way using modern technology. But I don't need to take anything away from what Rob's going to share. I'm just going to let him do it. And I will go ahead and name you the host for the time being, Rob. Do you need to share? You're going to share?
Yeah, I'll share a couple of things.
Sure.
But I'll start by introducing myself. So, as Christian said, my name's Rob, and I'm with Good Party. But I've been working in politics for the last 19 years, organizing campaigns at all different levels. I started in my home state of Maine, where I'm calling from today, working on environmental reform. I worked on the Obama campaign in 2008, traveling all over the country. Then I did a lot of work on marriage equality, before spending about 7 years working as the national field director an organization called Represent Us that some folks on this call might be familiar with. With Represent Us, I got to do some work in Pennsylvania, working with the good folks from March on Harrisburg, and doing all sorts of redistricting reform. And we passed about 170 different laws throughout the country related to democracy reform. And what drew me to Good Party as an organization was seeing a little bit of progress on the democracy reform issues that I was working at Represent Us. And I think there's more to be done in that space. But I really saw that a missing part of the reform puzzle was helping regular people to run for office and win. That is crucial, I think. If we're not able to solve for that, and the same people are running for office over and over again, we're just going to have the same bad actors finding new ways to commit old crimes, no matter how many times we improve the sort of rules around our elections. And that's what drew me to the organization. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk a little bit about how we're supporting candidates. We have done a lot of work supporting forward party candidates in the past, as well as independents of all sorts of different stripes. And through my little presentation here, I'm going to start with some of the top level intro to the organization and what we do. I'm also going to give you guys a kind of visual demo of what some of the tools look like and what they're capable of. And I'm going to do the quick version of the sort of who we are piece. The organization was founded in large part because there are massive issues that we need to resolve. Things like climate change, things like automation, civil rights issues, and we're not really seeing any progress on these important issues. In large part because the rules aren't quite set right. They are focused on prioritizing profit over people. And when you prioritize profit over people, things like war are more profitable than peace, sickness is more profitable than health. And it's really hard to argue that money hasn't corrupted both of the two major parties. The reason that we work with independents, the reason that we work with third parties like the Forward Party or the Green Party or the Libertarian Party is because 99% of incumbents in Congress raise a majority of their funds from big money donors. So corporations, from lobbyists, from big banks, that sort of thing. And 18% of Americans, a record low, approve of how Congress is doing, and yet nothing changes. It's so bad on the congressional House side that 80% of House elections are not competitive. They're not even within 10 points of one another. And to me, perhaps the most disturbing is that 90% of Congress gets reelected solely based off of the amount of money that they raised. So the number one predictor for who's going to win an election is who has more cash on hand. And it's both of the two parties that have this problem. I have family members who at Thanksgiving want to point to this guy and say that it's all his fault. And I have family members who at Thanksgiving will tell me that it's all of this guy's fault. But they're just as bad as each other when it comes to this corporate welfare approach to running for office. A majority of both of their fundraising comes from these big money sources. And so it's a Republican problem, it's a Democrat problem. It really is a two-party system problem. And when you look at what the establishment thinks of as viable candidates, you can tell that the whole system is spoiled. I don't buy the sort of spoiler argument when it comes to talking about independent politics. I think the system itself is what's spoiled because we have a elected class that is becoming more and more homogenous over time. And the other thing that they all have in common is that these are all millionaires, and for the most part, many of those folks didn't go into public service that way. The exciting thing is that there are demographic shifts that make this a really wonderful time to be working in the independent reform space. Obviously, we're seeing some pretty big shifts in terms of voting blocks. I think the most interesting thing on this slide is that digital natives, the 18 to 35-year-old age block, will be the largest voting block in the country as of this year. And they predominantly break independent. A majority of Americans, at 49% identify as independent, but this younger generation of 18 to 35-year-olds break that way at an even higher amount. The trick is that a lot of those voters are what we consider rationally apathetic. They are not turning out at the same level as boomers and older generations. And that is because when you talk to these people, they say that they don't see enough choice. They don't see enough who are running for office. They don't see themselves in the folks that they're being asked to elect. And that kind of brings us to what is the alternative. And our organization focuses on trying to support the 500,000 plus local races that are out there, because these local races represent what to us is the most competitive elections that we could be running good candidates in. You compare it to the federal races where there's 538 at bats, less than a percentage point. If you look at the state races and the local races, there are a lot more at bats. And the shocking thing is that 70% of state and local races are actually races where someone is running totally uncontested, and therefore the races that are defaulting to red and blue. So essentially, this organization was founded on the idea that we need more people to run as independent candidates in those state and local races. So more good candidates. And those candidates, in turn, as we've done kind of a full field audit, need more help to get voters to turn out so they can win, and then turn all those wins into a building sort of narrative or momentum that catalyzes a movement. So that is a huge part of what this organization is built on. And we offer all the tools that we offer for free, or as close to free as we are legally allowed to in the case of some states in their campaign finance reform. All that we ask is that our users sort of meet this simple pledge that you're independent, people-powered, and anti-corruption. So independent to us means that you're not a Democrat or you're not a Republican, right? You can be a forward party independent, you can be a libertarian, you can be anywhere on the political ideology spectrum. The key part is that you're not a part of the two-party fundraising machine. People powered goes even deeper into that. So that means that a majority of your funds are raised from individuals and not from special interests. That is probably the number one disqualifier. Most members of Congress would not be able to run using our tools for free because of that majority of funds coming from individuals piece. And then anti-corruption means remaining transparent to your constituents and promoting competition in choice once you are elected. And we have a sort of slate of policies, things like ranked choice voting, things like redistricting reform that we call on our supporters to support. And then, of course, a minimum standard of civility. So we don't want to be platforming anyone who engages in hate speech or is bringing more ugly rhetoric to a political space that's already pretty full of that. So at this point, I'll kind of break from this piece of the presentation and talk a little bit about the tools. Our main offerings that we put together, number one, is a campaign plan, a sort of bespoke campaign plan that we use our AI to help us to build, to give a general sense of what your campaign can look like. We also help people to find the office closest to them that they're eligible for. We offer a My Content section that uses AI to generate press releases, things like door knocking scripts, all with the sort of industry best practices baked into them. And we offer expert advice from our actual staff itself. So we have political veterans who are on call to help answer questions and support the people who are running for office, as well as an online community that helps to support our candidates. So I'll walk you through some of these pieces here. This is just a clickable demo of our tool. So this was where most people start, kind of entering their zip code and looking for a position that they could run for themselves. In this case, this candidate is selecting the mayor of Pawnee, Indiana. They're running a platform of reducing government, practical experience in bureaucracy trimming. For any fans of Parks and Recreation, this demo was built on the profile of Ron Swanson. So you give some basic information about who you are and who you support. And then after learning a little bit about the past experiences, it will ask you for your top priorities if you were to run for office. So at least 3 policies that you care about, and it will help you to flesh out how you talk about those policies. We'll ask you for a short bit of information about your opponent, in this case, the co-star of that show, Parks and Rec, Leslie. And from that alone, it produces the basics of a campaign plan. It puts together a statement on why I'm running, a bio on you, a campaign slogan. It puts together a policy platform, and it builds the outline for what a campaign website, a winning campaign website would look like. All of these outputs are customizable and editable. The idea behind any good AI is to give you a starting point, so you're not staring at a blank page, and to apply some general best practices. But you can kind of go through any of this and edit it. We also pull the real life voting numbers for you based on the voter file to determine your win number, to determine the total number of registered voters that are in the district that you're running for, the number of Republicans, Democrats, independents, and we put together a path to victory that essentially says this is how many of each that you would need to be able to win your election. We give you tactics for how to reach out to them. This is again, an example of that why I'm running statement. And then I think the part of the tool that I, as like an old campaign practitioner, am the biggest fan of is this My Content session. This is where you kind of get the pre-trained templates that consultants on your campaign or you yourself can use to be able to, again, skip the step of looking at a blank page and have all of the best practices for things like a press release that will actually get you press coverage are just a couple clicks away. So an example of that here, let's say that we wanted to make a press release for the launch of this campaign for mayor. Be able to do that very quickly and easily, one click, edit through it, again, review through it, ask it to highlight different parts of your resume, just like ChatGPT or other AIs are responsive to feedback that you give it. So are these documents, these sort of living documents. So you can tell it, emphasize my parks and department experience a little bit more, and it would tweak to do that. Another part of the tool is a tracker. So a plan is only good if you're following it and you're adjusting it on the fly. So just like I have a watch that tracks the number of steps or calories I burn in a day, I can enter here, how many doors did I knock? Did I make the number of calls? I have 776 calls left in this campaign to be able to hit my goal for this week. How am I doing against the plan that we laid out at the beginning? With 38 weeks left, how much voter contact do I have to do to be able to confidently say that I'm going to win this election? All of this is stuff that as a field director, as a campaign manager, I would normally be doing with a candidate who I work for. And instead, with the idea here is that we want to be able to give these services to people who can't afford to necessarily hire at the state and local level, the whole army of consultants. We also have access to the voter file that we provide, again, for free or as close to free as we possibly can. This allows you to know, okay, here are all the independents who live in a specific neighborhood that I need to go out and talk to and have these door-to-door conversations with. When it comes to providing the voter file, I think that a Good Party is without a doubt the most cost-effective way for an independent candidate to get access to the voter file. We also provide texting for our candidates at as low processing cost as possible. We essentially just charge for the literal connection of the texts, but we help to handle all of the overhead. And we actually have an army of volunteers, about 1,200 of them, or just shy of 1,200 of them, who are on our Discord, or our little community server. You can see this is from about a week ago when we were doing some texting for a candidate named Terry Crandall out in California. This community also is a space where we're educating volunteers and young people about the political reform space. So you see tonight, I believe, or sorry, this was on the 15th, there's a movie stream of The Social Dilemma and sort of a conversation group around that. This volunteer network that we have matches volunteers with political campaigns that they can support remotely, from anywhere in the country. So that is that piece. And then the only other thing that I like to show, this is just another form of a demo. You can see the posters in the background here. I'm a little bit of a comic book nerd, but sometimes I find it helpful to show a fictional characters when we're doing these demos. I ran through, I have the X-Men poster behind me here. I ran through, just as a fictional candidate, Magneto from the X-Men, the reformed villain, and what his "why I'm running" statement would be. How would a candidate like this be able to preemptively cut off some of the criticisms that might rightfully be levied towards a former mutant terrorist? But in terms of these tools, we have seen a lot of progress. Last year, we rolled these tools out for the very first time to a set of candidates in Nashville, Tennessee. There were about 4 of these candidates who used our initial tests, and one of those candidates won their race for Metro Council. We increased the number of users on the tool by 10 times for the November elections to about 40 candidates. And what we saw across the board is that the candidates who use the tools the most, especially who focused on voter contact, things like door knocking, things like making phone calls, things like doing text messages, won their campaigns. The sort of power users, the folks were focused on voter contact, won their campaigns. About 30% win percentage across our tools here is what we're seeing. And we're working and making those tools better day in, day out, day by day. So I see that somebody drops the link to Good Party in the chat here. You can check out our tools, you can sign up for them. You can actually play with everything up until selecting the voter file as is out of the box, and begin seeing what your experience is with them. You can play with the My Content section. The part where sometimes it gets tricky is when you actually need the voter file. In many states, there are rules about what you're allowed to in kind or give to a campaign for free. In our workaround on that, we never charge more than $10 for when we do have to charge something. Because at the end of the day, the goal of this organization is not to make money. We're a public benefit corporation. If we ever charge anything, it is specifically so the candidate and also we are in full compliance with whatever campaign finance laws or ethics clauses exist in your state. The other link that I will drop is a link that invites you into our Discord community. So if you're interested in following our progress as a volunteer, or meeting some of the other volunteers, or introducing your forward campaigns to some of these volunteers, you can follow this link and join the online community there. And yeah, I just power talk you guys. Why don't I answer some questions?
But before you even go to questions, I want to bring up something about the Discord, as I've been exploring that a little bit myself. I really encourage people to go on there and take a look at the different channels they have, some of the different, from their YouTube videos, and then even like the meme talk. There's a lot of very fun things that they invite volunteers to get involved with for helping to bring some fun back into politics and help messaging that can really cut through a lot of the noise. I think that's I've been having a lot of fun looking through some of those things myself, Rob. I don't know if you want to add any more to, that's a quick mention as to what's over there, but there's a lot of great channels on that Discord.
Yeah, I think a part of the stuff that we do in terms of just trying to have a fun space and also an educational space for our volunteers comes out of this mission being twofold. We have to win elections, certainly, but we also have to kind of remind people of the simple fact that there are more independents than there are Democrats and Republicans. Right now, the math is not working the way that it should. There's this general sense in the national narrative that independents can't win. And the fact of the matter is, especially when you look at state and local races, independents are winning all over the country. And they should be winning across federal offices as well. But until we're able to kind of win this narrative battle, we're going to kind of be buying into the dissonant message that there aren't enough independents for a major candidate to win, when the fact of the matter is that we actually have the numbers on our side. So a lot of our memes, a lot of our storytelling is about a long lens mission to be able to bring about change in some of those bigger races. I think that we're one, maybe two cycles away from having federal implications with our tools. And the only way that we get there is if we start winning hearts and minds, and that's a messaging campaign.
So Rob wanted to open up the floor for some questions. If anyone has questions, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. I just want to point out that these tools work great if you would consider yourself being a candidate, if you know someone who you think would make a good candidate, or if you want to help work on someone's campaign that defines this. So there's lots of different ways of getting people involved with the Good Party tools. Again, it's just amazing how much has already been put together through this site. A lot of information that would normally take a lot of time to compile on an individual race is able to be done at the push of a button, so you can spend your time really talking with people and getting things accomplished. So I've been very impressed with what the tools deliver, and hope you guys will all explore them just a little bit more and even consider volunteering. We're going to have some candidates here in Pennsylvania where you can volunteer, and we'll hopefully I expect that we'll have some candidates that sign up and go through these Good Party tools. But there's other opportunities to get involved with campaigns if you log into their Discord and see what's available and what's out there. So any questions? Rob just had all the right answers for you. I'll tell you, AI just keeps getting better. It learns from itself. I think a lot of you understand the premise or the basis for how that works. So these tools, as they build them and continue to get feedback, and they're able to continue putting better inputs in, it's just going to get that much better on the outputs. So I'm really excited what's here now, but then again, what's coming down the road, even next year. All right, we got a hand, Nathan.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. My question for Rob is, yourself, you are building the Forward Party in Pennsylvania, and I am building the Libertarian Party here in Center County, Pennsylvania. The tools that Rob was talking about, are for campaigns, for running elections. My question is can people like Christian and myself are there other tools to help us build the party itself, build membership, build sort of the infrastructure of our third parties that will then eventually help us win those elections as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a lot of the tools that exist, even though they've got a sort of candidate support label on them, already lend themselves towards helping issue campaigns and already help to support the development of parties. I think especially when it comes to things like drafting press releases, you could very easily use the release drafting piece in our My Content section to be able to, help your communications director in dozens of different ways. I have had a lot of success as well on sort of like the communications side using our tool as well as other AI to say, pull me a list of the top 10 news outlets that I need to develop relationships with if I'm going to be an effective communications manager for an independent candidate, or, in your case, an independent party. And it can give you some good leads, essentially, for developing those press relationships. You can use these tools. I think the My Content section, especially, any outward facing communication that you would have, whether it is for the candidates, a letter seeking endorsement from an organization, or for a party developing a questionnaire that you want candidates to fill out so they can earn your endorsement. There are a lot of ways that these existing tools could be used in either use case.
So if I understand correctly, the tools, signing up for the tools doesn't, you're not required to be a candidate. You can be, a political director or whatever for an organization and get access to these tools without breaking any.
All the way up until access to the voter file. And I would say the texting tools, those for compliance reasons and for the current sort of mission of our organization, those are the things that we end up spending quite a bit of money to make available to candidates. Those things we would likely maintain as just an offering for candidates. But right now, you could log in on goodparty.org and you could access the My Content section and any of the sort of language-based models that our AI are pre-programmed for. And you could play with them in a dozen different ways. The one part, again, like the voter data, because we have to buy those records every time that we offer them to the candidates, that would be the one thing that I don't think that we would be able to provide to the parties. And that might change in the future. But, I was last week at a conference for the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers. And I had a lot of folks from Forward Party National and from other third-party organizations. And when I was telling them about what we were doing, there was sort of like a appetite for, well, would you ever do this for ballot initiatives where you'd provide the voter file in this way, or for these parties? And those conversations are beginning to take place. But as of right now, I would say that would be the one thing that you would be gated from. But all of the content stuff, like, play with it. Tell us what you come up with.
Great, thank you.
I wanted to give time for other people's questions. I'm going to put one that I already know the answer to, but I think somebody's probably thinking it. Rob, how are you guys able to offer this for free?
Yeah, so we have a single funder founder. We're very fortunate in that case. When I give the longer sort of who we are presentation, I go through all of those pieces. But our founder, Farhad, created an organization called BizRate and also a website called Shopzilla in the 90s. And then more recently created Flipagram, which within 48 hours of Flipagram being released on the app market, was the #1 app in the world. He sold all three of those companies, has over $1 billion in exits. Flipagram was combined with Musical.ly to become TikTok. And he often jokes that he's spending his ill-gotten TikTok gains on trying to fix democracy. And his selfish reasons for wanting to do this work is he is somebody who, as you can guess from his resume, is a bit of a futurist. He can see around the corner on some things. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, he sees very crystal clear that it could be something that, if the rules are in place and they center people, can lead us to a pretty cool, utopian future. But if we continue to have rules that are set on profit, it could lead us the other way to the sort of scarier version of the future. And he sees there as being a pretty narrow moment in time for us to use technology as leverage for disrupting our political system, just like it's disrupted every other area of my life. Certainly, you know, I'm right on the cusp where the internet really popped up and became everywhere in the time that I was alive, and I watched technology change the way that I shop, the way that I date, the way I listen to music. It's touched every part of my life except for politics. And he's trying to be a part of how it touches our politics.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you being here tonight. I think everyone good. Jack, you have a question? If you're talking, you're muted.
I know. Hey, Rob, this was amazing. Thank you so much. And I've been multitasking by wandering around on your site. And there are, my question is like really simple, and maybe you can point us to some place. So while it's laudable to say money is the root of all evils, paying for the getting the message out is a necessary part of building a party and a campaign. And so the big two have in the last year, people have created Win Red and Blue, whatever it is, and their version of platforms that you can use to process various payments and still stay compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a next step for you guys? Are you, I have been spending most of the last week or so wandering around the internet looking for an independent version of Win Red, and can't find one anywhere. And I'd be delighted to hear your perspective on that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's not one of the tools that we want to build and solve for at Good Party. You know, our mission really is around trying to get money out of politics, but I agree it is a necessary evil. We look for ways that we can leverage as much as we can earned media over purchased media, or direct voter contact over purchased media. And that's just sort of what the tool set that we're building. That being said, there are lots of tools out there that independents can use. My colleague Jared Alper, who's our political director, when he delivers the path to victory numbers, and oftentimes has his first consultation with a candidate who signs up for our tools, that is like universally one of the first questions that he gets. And he has a short list of vendors that he recommends for processing payments. And that is definitely something that is more his expertise than mine. I'm a field guy by trade, and less a finance guy, but Jared has at least 3 or 4 different services that he recommends to people. So I could try to connect you with Jared for a more complete answer on what the services are. But when it comes to is that one of the things that we're building, we're really focused on things like expanding our door knocking tool. We're focused on pieces like, okay, how do we have the most effective SMS, like direct person-to-person texting programs that we can develop, and all with the understanding that there are other groups out there who are covering that piece of the puzzle.
Thank you.
Well, Rob, thank you so much. If you don't mind, instead of adding you as a host, I made you the host. If you can return those hosting privileges to me before you exit, or feel free to stick around if you want to, but I don't want to hold you hostage.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being here tonight.
I appreciate you
Hey,
guys. Thank you.
I actually had a question. If we still
Yeah.
have time for those.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hi, Rob. My name's Nick Rognes. Yeah, happy to hear from an organization that sounds like you're fulfilling a critical gap in the democracy reform space. I've been involved with reform organizations for probably about 7 years now, including Represent Us at one point. You know, as I've you know, volunteered on campaigns and gone to some of these conventions and studied the issues surrounding the specifically the aspect of like people-powered fundraising, trying to reduce the role of big money. One of the challenges that I've noticed is that like initially when we started seeing folks that put a big emphasis on their people-powered campaigns within the two parties, like I think about examples like AOC or Dan Crenshaw. Unfortunately, you know, I think I think we're focused as a forward party is trying to act more as a bridge to get like progress in some of these policy things. And it seems like a lot of the enthusiasm, most of the enthusiasm towards people-powered fundraising has been more focused on those that I would describe as on the activist side of things. And for anyone, I'm not trying to offend anyone on the call who might be a fan of those folks that are focused on that, but you know, I do think it presents a challenge to our broader reform movement. You know, that folks that are people who are running for office that are most enthusiastic about like not being associated with big money tend to be the folks that are more extremist. So that's sort of my challenge to you. What is your take on how we might address that challenge of how could we get, you know, people that are not only enthusiastic about the people-powered fundraising, but are also people that can be pragmatic, bring people together, and deliver on policy accomplishments?
Yeah, well, I would say that anytime that you look towards the United States Congress, you're probably going to see some of the worst use cases, and bad actors that there are. I hear you on the sort of activist, extremist sort of piece, but when you look at clean election programs and how they perform at the state and local level, I think that you see a totally different story. If you look at the voucher program in Seattle, you have some of the highest approval rating of local government in the country since that system went into effect. Maine, where I lived since 1996, has had a clean elections program, one that was redoubled and re-strengthened in 2015 through a ballot initiative. And Maine, as a result, has one of the most independent and also blue-collar state legislatures in the entire country, with, again, like a really high approval rating by local office. I think that these clean election people-powered campaigns at the local level make all the difference in the world. There is a small number of folks who kind of meet that criteria currently, and you're right, when you look at some of them, they are certainly, you know, I think of Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think would probably fit this. And I think that there are some people who certainly play into extremes to get that small dollar funding from the most extreme elements of their constituency. And I agree that's a problem, but I think that there are significantly more success stories, especially when you look at the state and local level, than there are stories of bad actors.
That's encouraging. Thank you.
Rob, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it and appreciate all the hard work that's been going on. We're looking forward to engaging with the tools.
Yeah, thank you all. And I'm just Rob at goodparty.org. I'm happy to continue any conversations, or if you have questions that you wish you asked, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you, folks.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye, y'all.
Good luck to you in the upcoming election cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, with the way that they operate, they're not worried about the primaries. So we have time to be part of that upcoming election cycle and getting people engaged with their tools. And that's the next piece that we wanted to talk about is some of our candidate progress. Just wanted to, again, I hate to be cryptic and kick the ball down the road, but it's good news, and yet we can't come to a full announcement yet. We will be having 2 statewide candidates this year, 2 different offices. So we will have an opportunity to gain our state party status. So we're excited to be able to have that. It's going to take work, and we'll be asking some of you to be part of that work or recruit others to be part of that work. But we're very happy with the people that we've had a chance to meet and vet, and can't wait to introduce them to everyone. That's going to be happening in late March. So you have one more meeting of me here saying it this way, where you're going to get to meet these candidates. But we are really looking forward to that happening. Additionally, the candidate committee has identified 7 House districts where we're looking forward to recruiting or having relationships with candidates who are running. And that's just ones that we're targeting based on certain metrics. It doesn't mean we're limiting it to those 7. So we're still open to hear from you guys who you think we should be talking to. Self-nomination is allowed. We certainly want to hear your nominations for who we should be considering as both forward affiliated candidates and forward party candidates. So let us know. Additional to the state house races, we have at least 1 state senate race and a few congressional seats where we expect to be having, or we already are having some conversations and talking to people about running, with Forward as part of their campaign. So lots of good things are happening, and we think as we put that whole picture together and have all these different levels of races that are happening, it's going to help us tell our story of who we are, why we're here, and all along working along with other independent and third parties to help accomplish some good things. Ben, before I go to Bob's question, when is your next candidate committee meeting, or how do people get involved if they want to be part of that candidate committee meeting, and where should they submit any nominations?
They can submit nominations to me at my email. I'll put it in the chat. And you can also ask to join the candidate committee at that email as well. We have a candidate committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday at 8. And we'll be looking to plan how we're going to go about the candidates doing candidate work this year.
Great. So Wednesday at 8 o'clock, send Ben an email if you'd like to be invited to that. And if you can't attend that or don't want to attend that, but have a seat or a person that should be considered, please submit that. Bob. You're muted if you're talking.
This is for John Mamatis.
Yes.
If he's listening, I hope. Will you please run for our state representative, because the 2 we have really are not good choices. Not the best choices. I don't know if he's listening. I know he's there.
I think he's probably listening, but depending on where he often listens while he's working, he might not be able to take his mute off or be able to talk. But
Okay.
I know that he's giving serious consideration and planning to run. Well, he hasn't made that commitment yet, but we'll make sure that he's heard that message from you, Bob.
All right, then. If I meet you
That is one
sometime,
of that is one of the districts that we've identified as being a good place to be represented. And John has definitely been involved with a lot of conversations and a lot of meetings.
Even if he loses, I think it's better for people to have an alternative, because it might say that, maybe 200 people voted for him instead of the 2 that we have. I don't know if I'll talk to you about it sometime.
Yeah. Oh, I know who the incumbent is, and I know who the challenger is, and your feelings about that. So I actually knew when I saw the challenger exactly how you were thinking, Bob.
One thing to mention, if you are are thinking about running for office, you do have to disaffiliate and register as an independent to run as a forwardist. So, and that needs to happen before March 23rd, I believe. 30 days prior to the primary, to be exact, but you need to get that done pretty much as soon as possible so that you are not kicked off the ballot.
Wait a minute. I kind of wonder what's this we hear about you can run as a forward Democrat or a forward Republican.
That is where we will, in some cases, we endorse and affiliate with a person who has ran as a Democrat or a Republican, or is running as a Democrat or a Republican. Senator Williams in Philadelphia and Delaware County, and Senator Boscola are already forward affiliates. We had a big event last year in Harrisburg when they announced, and we will hopefully be endorsing and affiliating with several others who are running for election this year.
So I think the difference is if you're a Republican and you're running in the Republican primary, and then ultimately, you know, and you can call yourself a forward Republican, but the state sees you as a Republican. And if you're a Democrat and you're a forward Democrat, the state sees you as a Democrat. You're just saying you're associating with us because you're aligned with our values, right? But you're still a Republican or a Democrat, so you're likely to be bound by the constraints of your party through the primary if you're going to run as a Republican or a Democrat. What they're saying is if you want to run as a forwardist, then you're an independent party. So that means you have to disassociate beforehand.
Yeah, and if you want to get on the ballot, the only way you can get on the ballot right now is if you run as an independent. One of the minor parties like the Libertarian Party. Technically, the Forward Party is still a political body, so you have to kind of be an independent to run to get on the ballot as a forwardist. So that deadline is coming up, and I want to just reiterate that if as much as possible before the time is up.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder, Ben. And just to clarify one thing, and then I want to move on to some of the state organization things. The affiliated candidates, that would mean that you earned your line on the ballot as a Republican or as a Democrat. And so that part of the process already needed to be completed. You would have had to declare and gone out there and got your signatures, and you'd be running in the primary. And then whether with some people there might be a conversation before the primary, and others it would be after the primary. But those are the people that could be an affiliate versus someone who's running as a forwardist. So I can talk more offline with you or through email if you have any further questions about that, Bob, or anyone else. I want to move towards the state organization news. I know there was a Southeast Regional meeting recently. And just for anyone else who wasn't aware, Cal DeMarino, who was one of the founding members of the state party, had a job change that made him have to step down from his role. He's still going to be involved in supporting the Forward Party, but has vacated his role as the Southeast Regional Chair. And so there is a vacancy. I know that they're acting quickly to address that. And I know that there was conversation at the regional meeting. Is there anything more that needs to be announced on that, Jack or Rachel?
Just as a progress report. So we did, Rachel and Tim and I did bring it up at the regional meeting. We invited candidates, and we actually had 2 people so far, and to put their names in a ring. We've developed a process that we're going to be reaching back out to those guys and kind of formalizing their self-nomination to be the regional lead. And we expect to have a recommendation for this body or in 2 weeks. So it's pretty exciting that we had some really super volunteers stand up for this.
So one of the reasons for bringing that up tonight is if you're in that Southeast region, because you need to be a resident of the region to serve as the chair, and you're interested in serving a leadership role, you could reach out to Rachel, Tim, or Jack to let that be known and throw your hat in the ring as well. There's many other roles and ways to be involved. So hopefully, we want to just have that invitation out for those who want to get involved at another level. Ben.
Speaking of other roles up for election, we are planning a convention, and one of the things our bylaws state that has to happen in the convention is that our state chair needs to be elected, and we're gonna be asking for nominations. I'm hoping Christian might come on for re-election. That's up to him, but we are also trying to get people to see if they want to throw their hat in the ring as well.
That was the next agenda point, Ben. Thank you. And yes, there are open nominations for that. And you can self-nominate if there's someone who is interested in serving as the state chair, or if you know someone who would be a good state chair. Please do not hesitate to move forward with nominating or bring someone to the table in order to help build the organization. I truly am sincerely saying, if you know someone who you think would make a good state chair, please encourage them to get involved with the party and consider that position. And as for the state convention, that planning committee will be meeting again next Tuesday for anyone who wants to be involved in that planning committee. Once again, while we're looking to hand off the reins of chairing that committee, Ben has been the one who initiated. So he's the one who's organizing those meetings. Reach out to that same email if you'd like to be invited to that state chair or to that state convention planning committee. We are looking at a couple dates. We don't have a date firmed up yet, so I don't want to put one out there and confuse you folks, but it is going to be very soon after the primary. And there's going to be some state business to take care of, including electing the chair. It's going to be an opportunity to meet in person some of the candidates that are running under the Forward banner. And there's also going to be an educational component. So it's going to be worth coming out to Gettysburg for the day. Our plan is to be in Gettysburg. We're getting those plans finalized. And we have an open invitation for anyone who wants to come out and be part of that day of fellowship and networking. We're looking forward to a good time and an opportunity to learn how we can best support one another and grow what we're building here. And that brings us to Leap Forward. And Peter Knight, this was your idea. If you don't mind, I'd like you to talk about what your thoughts were and what you're doing. And then for anyone else on the call that can speak to the events that they're hosting under this same umbrella.
Well, fine. Well, it occurred to me that leap year occurs only once every 4 years, and we could organize events to leap forward. And actually, somebody suggested we could also spring forward on March 10th. But I don't know if that's when spring officially begins, but whenever it begins, we could have a spring forward sessions. But we were having a gathering, inviting people from Bucks and Montgomery counties, and well, I guess it's a 30-mile radius around Doylestown to the Station Tap House. There are 2 other events planned, and Christian can talk about them in other parts of the state, and we hope we'll have more. We should have one, at least one in every region. We could have one in every county where we were more prolific.
So this is an opportunity to get together locally and invite other people out that are reform-minded and interested in seeing a change in politics. So you can invite people from other advocacy groups, other political parties, other people who might have an interest or questions about Forward. We want to talk a little bit about some of the groundwork that's going to be necessary coming up soon with how to handle petitions. So hopefully, we'll have at least one person that has some expertise at each of these sessions that can talk just a little bit about what a proper petition signing looks like. But really, it's more of a casual get together and just being able to answer questions and talk about the current state of politics and how you hope to influence. So here in Western PA, we're going to be at Dancing Gnome from 6 to 8. So Dancing Gnome is a fun name for a brewery that's in Millville. And I will be there and inviting some other friends and hopefully anyone in the area might consider coming out to join us. Brian.
Yeah, I just wanted to again encourage anybody that it doesn't have to be fancy, but if you'd like to have a meetup in your area, it's just a few invite emails that we send out to people within a certain radius. It's not too late. We can set these up anywhere you want to meet up. So yeah, like people have said, we currently have 3, almost 4. We just got to confirm the time on the 4th one. Got a couple others in the works, but if any of you would like to host them, pick a restaurant, pick a time, and we'll set it up.
And it's
also, yeah, Ben, go ahead.
I was going to say also associated with this series of events, we're asking people to make a pledge of a multiple of 29 on our donation page. We do have a convention to pay for coming up, so that will, any donation will be greatly appreciated.
All right, so we just want to close out the meeting with our calls to action. First, let's go and visit goodparty.org, either their website or their Discord, if not both. I had a lot of fun visiting the Discord, especially the memes section, for good inspiration and even ones that we can borrow and use in our own personal accounts or even with the state party accounts. And that's what they're there. They're there to be borrowed. So you're not stealing anything. We encourage spreading those types of messages. Get prepared on how to do the nomination papers. Look up a video. Be prepared and consider when you might have time. Come out to a Leap Day party, Leap Forward party, and get familiar so that it's not an uncomfortable thing and you're ready to support our candidates once it's time to start gathering some signatures. And consider who you might invite to come along with you and invite additional people to be part of what we're doing. Anybody else have one more call to action that they might want to offer before we close off and end? Nothing. Well, that's a lot. And I'm so glad we got a lot in a short period of time after giving Rob so much of it. But I think that was time well spent. I hope that you guys enjoyed that, and I appreciate you guys spending some time being here tonight and being part of building some political change here in Pennsylvania. Have a good night.
Thanks, Christian. Thanks, Al.